Good morning. What I'm about to do today is go into a place and determine whether or not a certain creature is still alive or not. Hopefully she is. I have somewhat of control over it, but in many respects I don't. I've got a pond, and I don't know if it's the front yard or the backyard. By normal accounts, that would be the front yard because it's the side of the house that faces the road. However, the house is situated on a public parking lot, so perhaps the back side of the house is the front side and vice versa. I can also ask myself, does it even matter? But in this particular yard, between the house and the road, public street, is a pond. I dug a hole as best I could. Because of certain circumstances, it can't be more than probably a little shy of 3 feet deep. And so it wouldn't be a safe pond to let what lives in that pond overwinter. Although frogs, it appears, can freeze solid. So can goldfish and come back to life a certain percentage the following spring. Pardon me. There we go. That'll be the last one. So I dug out this pond. I chose the liner. I chose the rocks that would go between the liner and the water, giving crevices for frogs to hide in. Many respects. Oh, also created the contouring. There's a deep spot in shelf and then a shallow area, or a drop off and then a shallow area. I created the conditions of this little world, and a little world it is. I put goldfish in it in the spring, and I reintroduced a turtle who for a certain period of time gets a chance to hibernate as turtles do. I've got a rather sterile pond in the basement, which is a 6-foot diameter by 2.5-foot high stock tank for watering sheep or goats or what have you, horses that don't mind dipping their heads low. But it's a rather sterile world. I have more control over it. And it's not that I'm a control freak. I want to create conditions which will allow the fish to be trapped or caught with a net, placed in this indoor world. Turtle too, with a little ramp and a basking light. I want to create conditions where I can take 100% of all the life forms that I take out of the yard pond, put them in the basement pond, create conditions that will allow 100% survival rate. Now I do put this form of aquarium plant, I believe they call it fern, in that water. And also in the filtering, I've got 2 filter systems to absorb nitrogen and give the fish and the turtle some form of natural feeling to this. Algae formed. I didn't put the algae in there, but it arrived. You create conditions, stuff happens. If you carefully plan your conditions, this thing that you create, life will be able to exist and thrive. The yard pond is a whole different matter because it is exposed to the elements. Raccoons show up there, great blue herons, frogs, typically green frogs, toads. I don't know if salamanders, I'm not putting it past them, but you don't create the world, you create the conditions for the world to thrive. Am I speaking of something else here? The turtle, ancient form of reptile, knows what to do. She's about 35 years old, give or take. Escaped 1 year, wound up in the natural pond, well, man-made pond, but it's very naturalized at this point. Knew right how to find it. I mean, she zeroed in like she had a compass. I don't know how she does it, but she kept escaping from the pond in the yard, aimed every single time right to the pond that's in the center of the preserve. And I didn't catch her crossing the parking lot. She made it. She wound up in that pond. I saw her sitting on this floating platform I put in there, looking at me from the deck, laughing. That following spring, after she had slept for darn near 6 months of the year, because turtles know what they're doing, they are programmed No matter how much I talk to her, how much I try to train her, she is that turtle that she was, she will always be, and what her ancestors were. Programmed, yet able to think. Am I talking about something else? She survived. I thought she was dead. I looked at the water at the edge of the pond deck. I saw her laying there, thought she was dead. Touched her with a stick, saw bubbles, which means she's irritated. Reached down and grabbed her, put her back. She degraded a little bit. She had a fungal infection, but turtles are tough. That's why I respect turtles. They have millions of years of programming in their innermost sanctums, their DNA. And no matter how much you talk to them or train them, they will always remain. I cannot train the turtle out of them. I cannot condition the turtle out of her. I cannot, with any way, shape, or form of intention to change her and mold her into a better modern turtle, she will always be that turtle. As long as that turtle exists, she will be who she was for millions of years. The only way to keep that turtle healthy, happy, and turtly is to allow her to be who she is. Again, am I talking about something else? Sometimes I will catch all the fish, goldfish, which at one time was about 55 to 60. I'll catch every single one. I'm trying for their own good to catch them, but they don't understand that. They want to be a free fish in that pond that by all meters is a natural place, a natural world where they want to be. But against their will, I will catch them, trap them, put them in the basement pond. Some years 100% will survive. Other years will be a year of death. I lost 35 fish last year when I put them in there. The conditions are always the same, but no matter how I will them all to survive, sometimes a lot of them will die. I feel bad for the individual fish, because when I look into a fish's eyes, I see thought, I see dreams, fishy dreams. But the most important part of it is, I guess, as much as it saddens me to see my prized fish die, my friends, that when they die, the weaker ones die. The ones that are not adaptable, the ones that can't go from the outside to the inside into a man-made contained system, the ones that are not adaptable, the ones that are not the strongest of the fish, they will die and the strongest ones will survive. To go back into the pond the following season, maybe give birth, well, how fish give birth, to a new generation of fish. And those stronger fish will create stronger babies. Some of those will die the following season when I put them back in the basement, but again, the strongest ones will survive. I could go about, make every single effort to make sure that more of them survive, but as a wise leader of fish, I understand that I should not make every attempt, every possible irrational attempt to save all of them, because what's important at the end of the day is that every fish that makes it back out and completes that cycle is the strongest fish possible. And I see that because I've got 2 aquariums and that basement tank. And sometimes I'll pick out the most special fish that I want to save and put them in an aquarium in a more controlled environment without a big turtle swimming around. You might not know this turtle eat fish. Sometimes she decides to be Godzilla and rampage through them. Most of the time she just settles for liver sausage or big bugs or whatever I put in there. Bananas. My turtle likes bananas. But I'm about to go into that pond, take my stick or the end of the net, poke around until I see bubbles, feel a rock that moves, and pick her up. And every time I wake her up, she looks pretty PO'd at me. I have to keep this clean. She doesn't understand it. She's very adaptable. She's gone through, her and her turtle family, millions of years of evolution and natural selection to become the turtle that she is. I don't want to change her. I don't want to turn her into a softer, weaker turtle. I want to give her the opportunity to hibernate a certain period of time, usually a month and a half to 2 months a year, to risk certain death or uncertain death in the interest of allowing her to be whom she is, or who she is rather. The last bit, fire's dying down. When these chunklets go down, I'm going to take this little barbecue grill. I'm going to close the vents on the bottom. I'm going to put the lid back on with the vents closed. I'm going to kill the fire. And I'm going to retain charcoal, which will allow me to light it again faster the next time. The fire is hibernating. Fire is a living creature. I don't know how much it thinks. I'm not fire, so I don't know. But this friend of ours for millennia that hurts us and helps us, hurts us, can kill us, but also keeps us alive, you know, in certain conditions. I make every attempt to treat it with respect and allow it to live again. Okay, now the last bit. I have the world's greatest thing sitting next to me on the bench. If I showed up in an encampment of the world's perfect survival experts, psychologically, physically, skill-wise, they know what they're doing. They are so far advanced of us that it's indescribable. Certain factors that make us human, you know, our toughness, our ability to adapt, like that turtle, our ability to use tools to think, our ability to survive situations psychologically. Maybe by all meters, these people don't have, you know, what we have, but in many respects, if you go to different meters, they have a lot more than we have, because they never lived in modern circumstances. They've never slept in a bed. They've never taken a shower. They've never used a microwave. They don't know what cell phones are. But if I showed them this thing that I'm going to show you, they would say that is the greatest thing that they have ever saw. They want it, and I must be a god amongst men to like have possession of it. You're probably wondering what it is. And this is it. You're going to laugh at first. You're going to pish-posh me. Because what this is a hand-forged knife from Pakistan I bought on eBay. And if you're a knife person, right off the bat, you think I'm nuts. But I'm going to show it to you. The sheath was rather cheesy. I didn't like it whatsoever, but I added some stuff, some important stuff. Let me approach the camera. I dyed it with kind of a fading pattern. You can't see it. Red dye, blood red dye, in black. And I painted it. I had to add this thing because it was floppy. So I just put this simple tie with a couple beads on each of the ends to make it better. Got a design on there. I'm not even going to get into it. But basically what it is, I'm not going to explain the whys, but what it is, it's a sun pattern. Copper paint with a black center. It's my current design, my favorite design. And when I take it out, it's not tied, it's just wrapped. It's held firmly but gently. No ties, no knots, just wrapped. You're going to see a simple blade. It doesn't even have a handle, really. The leather is just wrapped around the tang. So I guess it's a full tang knife. On the butt end, it has a raven head, which makes it utterly cool. It's not the best throwing knife, but if I showed up in this encampment of the world's greatest survival experts, they probably wouldn't throw it anyway. That hook makes it good for chopping, and its heft, its thickness, distal tapering, the steel, 1095, 0.95% carbon, sir. You realize that it's not the best knife steel in the world, but it's a good knife steel. easy to sharpen, retains an edge. It has a Scandi grind, which would be good for batoning. It's certainly strong enough for batoning. It's kind of a pounded appearance, which is really nice. Say, who are these people that think this is the greatest knife in the world, that are claiming to be the best survival experts in the world? Well, we had to take a trip back in time. We have to go back to the Neolithic, perhaps Paleolithic, Archaic, Stone Age. And can you imagine what would happen if you showed up in that encampment of Stone Age people holding this, the world's greatest survival experts? They would say this is the greatest knife they ever saw. It's tough, it's not going to break like a stone knife. They can sharpen it once they learn how, because they're clever. And I try to think of stuff like that. You know, what do we have that we're always striving to make better, but is more than good enough? And this definitely is one. This is an ironic item. The most people would see a $40 forged, not the cheesy Damascus, you know, or welded, whatever you call it. I'm not even going to waste time trying to think of that. Blades that you might see on eBay. There's not going to be any delamination, no cracks. It's just simple, pounded out of a billet of 1095 knife. It's more than good enough. Is this the most comfortable handle I've ever handled in the world? No. But what it is a turtle of knives. It's gone through years and years of evolution. All it needs is, when my stones arrive today, to be sharpened. It's sharp. Actually, the eBay store is called Sharp Knives. It's kind of sharp. It's not razor sharp. But I'm holding something that is more than good enough, more than adequate. At one time in the world of survivaling, would have been the greatest one in the world. That, I think, is important. That is an important lesson. That is all. Fire's about died. I can put the cover on because there's no large pieces of wood that are still flaming. Just the potential for coals. My fire is now going to hibernate. Thank you for watching.